But that's a result of good parenting, Cindy, and that's what I think that all of us collectively need to encourage. Because if our children learn in a non-life following type scenario that if you take the action, there is going to be the consequence, then maybe by the time it comes to engaging in law-breaking behavior, you're going to think about the fact that there's a consequence, but there has to be that consistency and that continuity of care. And that's why, I have my children, thank God, are all grown. I'm very relieved. And it was always a struggle, and it always is a struggle as a parent. And that's where I think you were exactly right. It starts in the home. That's not the end-all be-all.
That's right.
There are a lot of different things that can affect it, and that should, be improved so that the life of young people who will make mistakes no matter what we do, because that's the nature of being young. They will make mistakes, so that we harm them as little as possible whenever possible. But that's an important first step. Understanding that our children from a young age need to have consequences, and if we apply those consequences in the home, then maybe we'll never have to deal with them in the criminal justice system.
That's very true.
There's another influence out there that we haven't even mentioned, and that's the influence of the internet. A lot of youngsters are getting information about how to behave socially off of the internet. And I've got a 15-year-old, and if you look at some of the programs that are out there, they're irreverent, they're disrespectful, they're smart aleck, they're arrogant, and so forth. And they're getting a dose of this kind of thing all the time, plus misinformation, especially about the law. If it's on the internet, it has to be true.
Sure. Yeah.
So, and so they're hearing stuff on the law that they think that, they're not going to get arrested for this, or you don't get arrested for that, or you can do this, and the penalties will be light. It's all totally they're misinformed about it, but they're getting that from what is increasingly becoming a primary teacher for especially for teens.
That's right.
Well, I wanna speak on something that was said, especially since we're talking about primary teachers. I have a dear friend, which is also someone I consider to be my aunt, named Sonia, and she had a little saying to me one time, just like in the party video, when the young lady was trying to be all tough and arrogant, as we see it each and every day in the media and on the internet and on TV. I pulled that stunt one time as a youth, and
Didn't work out so well.
no, I got a good smack in the back of the head, good old-fashioned smack in the back of the head. But you know what? A saying was said, be soft and free rather than hardened in jail. And that is a mouthful. And it's the truth. A lot of people want to be, look at me, I'm tough, or I'm pretty. I don't have to hear that crap from you. Well, that's not the case. We live in a society where there are rules to keep people in line, to keep people safe, and I feel that those rules should be followed each and every day. And if they are followed, they should be able to not just keep certain people back, but to keep us in our line, to keep us safe. That's what it's all about, to better ourselves. And I feel like me as a youth being up here right now at this very moment, I want to reach out to my youth, and I want to say that I come from both sides of the track. And I was a child that turned into an adolescent, that turned into an adult, and I'm a young adult right now, and I'm suffering from certain decisions that I made, but I take responsibility for it, and I roll with the punches. I can speak to my youth and share things with them so they don't make the same mistakes or the same poor decisions that I've made in my life.
Well, and what happens is, I think that you're right. It comes back to the word consequence we keep using, is that at some point in time, you do want a job, you do want a career, you do want to have a family, but you're not thinking about that when you're 14, 15, 13 years old and think you got it all figured out. And so what happens is, at some point in time, you give up those childish ways and you want adult possessions and you have adult aspirations, but yet those youthful activities, they still follow you. And so we try to give real life contextual scenarios in our OIC to show young people that, again, we all had a good time in college and youth, and I'm not telling young people think it's just boring being an adult and you can't enjoy yourself. We're not saying that by any means. But you got to find, that balance where you talk about and understand consequence. At some point in time, if you do X, when you do decide that you want to have a career, have a family and whatnot, those will deter you, as Angelo is saying. And so, though we have an opportunity as a society in large part law enforcement, policymakers, et cetera, community leaders and funders to help to be more conscious of how we're approaching the crimes and consequences. Again, we really want to make sure young people look at themselves and to think about their behaviors and their actions to make sure that in fact they don't hinder them from their aspirations later on in life.
It sounds like you've done a great job with Angelo over here.
Yeah, I'm still
Who's a
working with him.
wonderful-
Still a work in progress, but there's always room for improvement. And I feel like I'm never too old to learn something new and never too young to listen.
Yeah.
So,
Let me say lastly about the employers. It's interesting, and I was listening to Mason earlier on, that it is difficult. And quite frankly, when we approach employers, I don't necessarily start off talking about hire our folks because it's the right thing to do. No. We have a responsibility to meet business with their business objective, and they have a business to run, and I understand it. So my part of the deal is to make sure that they have the right skill sets, outlook, attitude to help business do their job. And so we say that. But interestingly enough, in instances where we've gone and talked to business, even as a part of being a part of Fund with Broward County United Way, by the way, when we make an appeal about the investment that the funder makes, oftentimes I learned that most employers on a personal level can identify all the time. Because oftentimes I'll tell what we do as an organization and most people won't publicly acknowledge it. Then they'll follow me out to the parking lot and say, hey, by the way, my son is having an issue. Can you call me later on? So I think that, we just got to be honest with ourselves as a community, largely speaking, about being sensitive to giving folks an opportunity. Accountability, absolutely. But if young people are taking the right steps, and adults, to improve themselves, have the skill sets, and can do the job, we should give them that opportunity to do just that.
And we all know that one of the hardest things to gain is experience.
Yep.
Oh, you can't get experience working unless you've had experience working.
That's right.
Right.
So, Mason, you also tackle that. It's something we work on together through summer
That's
youth
right.
employment, and I do want to make sure we get that in there as well.
Yeah, and thanks to the Children's Services Council, we are going to put about 700 youngsters in summer jobs this summer. Another 300 or so funded by other federal programs. So we'll have about 1,000 youngsters out there working in the community. Most people remember their first job. They may not remember their third or fifth job, but they remember the first job.
Absolutely.
And that first job often determines your work attitudes and your work habits. So we make sure that that first job is doing meaningful work, that they're learning real skills, that they're being supervised. We don't pay for kids to dribble basketballs. They are learning things during that time, and they're doing real work that needs to be done in the community. And they'll remember that because they will form their work attitudes.
And we need employers to step up for that as well.
Yes, we do. We have employers, the programs are in the public sector, so we go to municipalities and not-for-profits and so forth, and again, do meaningful work out there. Right. But employers in the private sector can step up and offer youngsters internships. We don't fund those, but they can offer them. Alexander Pope once said, as the twig is inclined, so grows the tree. This is a chance, and the employers often complain to us that people don't have the skills, the soft skills to add to their organizations. They don't have customer service skills, initiative, dependability, reliability. Well, if those are issues, take a youngster in and mentor them for the summer. Give them a summer job and teach them those skills.
Absolutely. That's so important because I talk about, particularly with our adult population, we don't come with a do it because it's the right thing. But I'd say to employers and make an appeal to say that we all have to invest in the better of the community at large. And here's an opportunity with Workforce One, in some instances where the employment is subsidized by Workforce One, to give a young person an opportunity to gain those skills. Yeah. And you might not have what they call a bleeding heart and want to do it from that perspective, but it is a business decision. If you invest in these young people across the board, help them get those skills at an early age, you're investing in a future workforce. I think they should really take advantage of that opportunity.
Yeah, if it's not a summer job, if it's a regular job, then yes, we can help subsidize that, as Newton was saying, for the training period if you take somebody in.
Right.
So basically, I'm a proponent that they should be doing it. Businesses should be hiring these young people because they're trained well, because they're going to be an asset, and because it's the right thing.
That's right. Yeah. There you go. There you go.
And what a great place to wrap it up. That was perfect. Thank you, Maria. Entering the workforce can be an obstacle course, especially for young people and especially for those young people who've had legal issues in the past. As parents, families, mentors, and educators, we all have a role in simplifying the process and ensuring that future generations have opportunities to improve their lives and our communities. I want to thank Mason Jackson, Maria Schneider, Angelo Negron, and Newton Sanon for helping us understand the challenges involved and sharing valuable information on available resources for youth and families. I've been your host, Cindy Ehrenberg-Seltzer, President and CEO of the Children's Services Council of Broward County, where our mission is to empower Broward's children to become responsible, productive adults, capable of realizing their full potential, their hopes, and their dreams. For a copy of the full episode of The Law in You, or copies of this program or any other episode of Future First, please call 954-377-1000 or visit www.cscbroward.org. Like us on Facebook, and remember to join us next time on Future First, Focus on Broward's Children.